Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you for Toadstool Sports. It is Sunday, whatever, January 11th. I am as pissed as you'll ever see me, probably. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Everybody's going to want to get the fuck out of here, probably, because I am not happy at all. There's no fucking way that we should have lost that Green Bay play. Absolutely no fucking way. Green Bay played 3 games against the Bears, and the Bears led for a grand total of, maybe 2 minutes of game time? The only times the Bears ever led in 3 entire games against Green Bay were literally the winning score in the fluke overtime game that they had to have a ton of shit just... Basically, they had to win by a series of miracles in that game. Then this game last night, after they were winning 3-0, they were losing for the rest of the game until the final minute of the game. So that's going to piss me off enough. But the game was fucking over. Green Bay was winning the game 21-3 at halftime. It should have been 24-3, but Matt LaFleur doesn't know how to manage. At the end of games, he does not know how to clock manage, and he should probably be fired, or at the end of halves, I should say, and it was kind of a problem in both halves yesterday, but they had plenty of time at the end of the first half to get closer, and instead they're like, nah, fuck it, let's just kick a 55-yard field goal instead, and they missed, of course. I mean, that's certainly not a guaranteed field goal, but they could have gotten closer, kicked maybe a 45-yarder or something. Then we might be looking at 24-3 at halftime, and that alone probably would have clinched the game for them. But whatever, they're up 21-3. Obviously, they should win the fucking game anyway. I think it was 21-9 in the fourth quarter. So, again, they should still win the game. They give up a touchdown finally. So, yet again, the Bears, 2 games in a row, the Bears didn't even have a touchdown until, at least midway into the fourth quarter. The previous game, it wasn't until the final, 2 minutes of the game. Last night, it was with maybe 8 minutes left, whatever it was. Then Green Bay scores a touchdown to answer. So, okay, Green Bay's back up, whatever it's going to be. But then Green Bay misses the extra point, and that extra point probably would have sealed the game because it would have put them up 12 instead of 11. So if they're up 12, then they should fire Brendan McManus, by the way. That guy fucking sucks. He's McManus because he's a fucking asshole for missing all these fucking kicks, missing the extra fucking point. So instead of being up 12, they're up 11, which then means Chicago, when they score and they get a 2-point conversion, whereas if they had been down 12, they wouldn't have gone for the 2-point conversion because they wouldn't have been able to cut it to 3. So that extra point might have won Green Bay the game if they just made that because it would have changed the dynamics of the game from then on. So it would have forced Chicago to get another touchdown, although I know they did anyway. But then Green Bay, if that was the case, Green Bay probably would have won with a field goal at the end. But instead, no. Chicago gets a 2-point conversion to cut it to 3. Then Green Bay is down inside the Chicago 30. They get couple of penalties, a delay of game, whatever. They can't fucking advance the ball. They call a horrible third down play where it's like, what are you doing with a third down play where you're throwing to a receiver that's like double covered, sort of in the corner of the end zone? What the fuck are you trying to do? You need to gain 15 yards, extend the drive. If you get a touchdown on this drive, you're going to win the fucking game. Because at this point, Green Bay's still up 3. Throw it over the middle of the fucking field, dude, where your guys have like more room to run, more room to get separation from the receivers. What the fuck are you doing throwing into the corner of the end zone? Like, you need 15 yards. Throw some like whatever you call it, not a slant, but like a post or whatever. I don't know, whatever. Something that goes over the middle of the field a little bit deeper, and you're probably going to be able to convert the first down because the Bears' defense is not very good. I mean, Jordan Love had 4 fucking touchdowns in the game, which, by the way, Caleb Williams was not even good in the game. I know he had over 300 yards, but that was because the Bears were losing the whole game, so they had to throw like 50 passes. Caleb Williams only completed 50% of his passes, and he had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he had no touchdowns until the fourth quarter. He's still fucking ass. He's awful. Anyway, Green Bay they just decided, all right, yeah, we're going to settle for a 44-yard field goal or whatever. Of course, they fucking missed that. And if they'd made that, they would have won the game because that would have put them up 6. And then Chicago scores a touchdown. Well, Chicago would have gone for the extra point because the extra point would have put Chicago up by 1 at that point. And then Green Bay got into field goal range again at the end of the game, so Green Bay would have been able to kick a field goal to win the game by 2 at the end if they had made that field goal. But no, they miss it, so then Chicago fucking scores. Green Bay, their defense doesn't hold at the very time that it needs to, even though Green Bay's defense was good all game pretty much. And then in the fourth quarter, they just don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Chicago still gets down inside Green Bay gets down inside the Chicago 30 again at the end of the game. But at this point, they need a touchdown, and that was it. They couldn't get the touchdown. They wound up having to throw passes, which again, it was stupid. They were just throwing passes at the end zone, I think, for the last couple of plays from like the 20, 25 instead of trying to get closer. But I guess if you get closer, you got to get out of bounds because Matt LaFleur had already used timeouts because he stupidly used a timeout on the prior drive, which didn't even work because they still got a fucking delay of game after that, which set the kicker back 5 yards. And that delay of game might have been the difference in the game too, because maybe they would have made a 39-yarder where they didn't make the 44-yarder, and they wasted a timeout for no fucking reason on that. So they had 1 fewer timeout on that final drive. I am so fucking pissed, dude. There's no fucking way that the Packers should have lost that game. Absolutely not. The Bears are still a complete fucking fraud. Matt LaFleur should be fired. I'm not joking. The only thing the Bears have going for them is they have the better coach. That's it. Fuck LaFleur. Fuck this shit. And then college basketball absolutely fucking pissed me off as well because, of course, we started out the day 3-0. Right out of the gate. NC State, blowout win. Not even close. Easy win. LSU, they covered. They lost, but they covered. Xavier, easy win. We're already off to a 3-0 start. Georgetown looked like they were going to win, and then they somehow blew it in the later portion of the game. They were winning the game for the majority of the game, so we had a couple of games like that yesterday. Houston Christian didn't cover, and I think they only missed by like a few points. Colorado, I'll hand it to Colorado because they were the one that should have been a loss that was a winner. They were getting blown out in the game, and I'm like, well, this is a loss. And then I look later, and they're in the game, and they almost won. I'm like, all right, I'll hand it to Colorado for that not going away, man. Might want to fade Colorado in their next game because that was an awesome late performance. Maybe I got to hand it to Texas Tech for maybe getting complacent there, but Colorado was able to cover that thing. Cal State Northridge was just like Georgetown, but even worse. Cal State Northridge was winning almost the whole game, and then they wind up losing. That pissed me off, too, because that looked like it was going to be a win. They were winning for, like at least 75, 80% of that game, probably. And then, full disclosure, San Jose State, right after I was done with the show, I went to actually put in the play, and it was 18 was the number on that. So I actually got a push with San Jose State. So I think a lot of people probably took a loss on it. I apologize, but again, I got a bunch of books at my disposal. I find the best number that I can, and that one landed right on 18. I probably deserved a loss on it, but well, I don't know. I mean, the game was it was just close to the number most of the way. Well, I don't know if I deserved a loss because it was a low-scoring game. It was just San Jose didn't do enough offensively. Like Grand Canyon did not really do a ton in that game to the point where they really should have covered a big number like that. And then Wyoming, fuck them too. We should have won with Wyoming, I think, too. So it gets late into the night, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to have a winning day because I'm going to get the Packers right, and I'm going to get Wyoming right. I'm sitting there, and the Packers are up 11 with like 4 minutes to go or whatever, and Wyoming is winning outright with whatever it was, 10 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to get both of these right. No, then Wyoming, all of a sudden, I look later, they're down 8. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Wyoming winds up not covering, even though, again, they were winning outright late in the game. I'm fucking pissed, dude. And then the hockey play blew as well. That was horrible. So we're going to move on from that. Depending on the number that you got in San Jose State, it was 4-7 or 4-6-1 yesterday. And it should have been a winning day, man. Like, a couple of those should have fallen the right way. Georgetown, Cal State Northridge, Green Bay clearly should have won. And then Wyoming. Like, all of those were in position to be winners. I'm not happy. College basketball wound up being 4-1. So, you know, and again, like more of them went the wrong way than went the right way. So, again, we did get a little bit lucky with the Colorado one, though. But still, we got unlucky more than we got lucky, which is bullshit. We're going to move on to today. That was a long rant. We're going to have 2 college basketball plays here. One is in one of the big conferences. The other is not. I have 3 NBA plays today, and you know, I don't know. We'll talk about them, and then I do have an NFL play again today, which, yeah, I mean, I think I just have to do it, but I don't know. All right, college basketball. Here we go. We start out at noon on Fox. We start out with a good Big Ten game between Illinois, number 16 in the country, and Iowa, number 19 in the country. This will be an interesting game, and it is a contrast of styles. And what do you know? Iowa is actually number 19 in Ken Palm's rankings, but Illinois is actually 8th. So I think that's what's going on with the market here, man. The market is indicating on Illinois as they flip from a 1-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. 56% of the cash on them, 57% of the tickets on Iowa. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, is the public really going to be, are they really on Iowa? The public? Why would they be? Like, Iowa's the lesser ranked team. They have the worst Big Ten record right now. Illinois is like the type of team that the public wants because this is a huge style contrast. And what does Illinois do? They score a lot of points and they play fast. That's the type of team that the public likes to play, not Iowa, who plays really, really ugly, slow basketball. Not a team that the public likes to be on. Like a defense-oriented team. Although I think both teams actually are pretty good defensively, believe it or not. But there is a contrast in pacing here. And if Iowa is able to slow this thing down at home, which I think they might be able to, because it is easier also to slow the game down. I'm not sure about this market read here. I think a lot of this might be like numbers guys just jumping in because Illinois in the like rankings, they're not like, as you see according to KenPom, like the analytics guys, the power ratings guys have Illinois ranked higher than the rankings makers do. So I think some of that is numbers guys coming in on this, but I think situational guys like me kind of are going to push back on that and disagree with it. I don't have a play on this game, but I kind of lean to Iowa here. Illinois, I mean, I know they're not coming off of anything great. I mean, they just stomped Rutgers. It was at home. But if you look at what Illinois has done on the road so far, it hasn't been as good. I mean, they only beat Penn State and Ohio State by 8 each on the road, and Iowa is better than both of those teams. So Illinois, yeah, I mean, of course, in this case, they just have to win the game, basically, though. But they've been better at home than on the road. Let's just put it that way. So that's a little bit of a concern. And they're coming off just a blowout win, which makes them look good, although Rutgers sucks. We'll talk about Rutgers later. But Iowa's coming off an ugly loss to Minnesota, man. And I think they might have been looking ahead. Like, I talked about that game, and I liked Minnesota in that game. Didn't give it out as a play. The only concern maybe is that it broke a 4-game win streak for Iowa. So sometimes that will hang you over. But you got to think Iowa's showing up for Illinois, man. I think part of the reason why they didn't do well at Minnesota is because they were looking ahead to this Illinois game. So I actually like Iowa in this game, which is contrary to the market here. I know Illinois is a good team, and they are good defensively this year, too, although they're still better offensively. Ken Pom actually has them 18th in defense. And actually, I might be wrong, actually. I keep thinking of Illinois as this, like, fast team, but Ken Pom has them really low, actually, in tempo. I'm actually shocked by that, so don't listen to me. I haven't watched Illinois play enough this year, I guess, but they actually, I guess, have slowed it down a bit and focused more on defense, which you usually don't see that when they have the same coach there. I'm pretty sure they have the same coach. I forget it. What is? Is his name Underwood? I think it is Underwood, not to be confused with Michigan's quarterback. Never been a fan of this guy, Illinois' coach, but I saw him live once during March Madness during the tournament 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised to see that. But okay, so both teams slow it down, but Iowa slows it down even more. Illinois is actually the better team on both sides of the ball, technically, according to Ken Pom, but the defenses are almost even. Obviously, Illinois has the better offense, though. Like, I was not wrong about that. So I guess take all that into consideration. I still slightly lean to Iowa in that game, though, personally. Tyson, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Yes, FAU is favored over Memphis, although FAU has the better record, though. So I don't know. I don't know if that's really a misleading-looking line or not. That's on ESPN2 at 1. Yes, I mean, Memphis kind of has the aura, if you want to call it that. Like, Memphis is obviously, I mean, they got the names surrounding them. Like, they seem to always be in the tournament, although FAU made a name for themselves recently, too, with Dusty May, who is, of course, now coaching the powerhouse Michigan team over there. So FAU, it's not like FAU is just this unknown quantity now because they did make the Final Four 2 years ago or whatever, or 3 years ago, I guess. They made the tournament again the year after that. Yeah, FAU is favored here, but also they're 10-6, and Memphis is only 7-7. So based on the records, it almost makes it look a little easy to take FAU. Although I think part of the reason why Memphis is 7-7 is because they played a more difficult schedule out of conference. I think Memphis is probably, I would guess Memphis is probably power rated as the better team. I mean, the odds makers are telling you that. The money is coming back in on Memphis in this one. Florida Atlantic is up to a 2-point favorite from 1.5. 57% of the tickets on them, but 54% of the cash on Memphis. So it looks like a slight pros versus Joes split on this one. Not an extreme one, but looks like the public slightly leaning towards FAU. Money actually slightly leaning towards Memphis. I don't really disagree with Memphis here. Memphis is coming off a pretty ugly game against Rice, where they only won by 6. Not a good game, really. Rice is not very good. Also the food I'm not a huge fan of, just because it's just kind of there. It's just an empty carb. Don't hate Rice, don't love Rice. FAU is coming off a better win, I would say, at UAB, which I'm assuming UAB was probably a favorite in that game, so that was a nice win. Now, yeah, they are coming back home, but FAU has actually had 2 big games in a row. They played Tulane on the road the game before that, and Tulane is actually atop this conference right now. That was a pretty big game for them. So, yeah, the setup for this, I think, is a little bit favorable to Memphis, so I agree with the money on that. I would slightly lean towards Memphis, but I don't want anything to do with the game, but slightly lean to Memphis for me here. Yeah, correct. FAU lost to Tulane. UCF is not in this conference, though. UCF is in the Big 12 because they moved. Yeah, the Carolina Panthers, they played pretty well yesterday, man. They had some chances to win that game. I was surprised. Once that game got going, dude, I'm pretty sure the Rams right out of the gate were up 14-0, weren't they? And I'm like, this game is over. But yeah, Carolina definitely showed. I don't know what I want to say, but they showed balls, I guess. Although it was kind of like they were free rolling because nobody expected them to be there this year. But yeah, they played pretty well. Correct. Yeah, that game. I watched the end of the game. It was a tight butthole game. That is correct. Correct. All right. Next game up. Here's the best bet for you, and it is an ugly, ugly one. Both of my bets are really ugly, but this one is really difficult to stomach. But there's a lot about the situation here that I like. Even Jeffrey's going to like this. Jeffrey's going to like that it's an underdog and that there's a revenge aspect to this. Cleveland State plus 7.5 is my first play against Detroit Mercy. Now, I know Cleveland State is awful. I know Ken Bum has them really bad. 325th, according to him. They're bottom 10, basically, in defense. They're horrible. I understand all of that, but we're still going to do this because Detroit Mercy is not that much better, really, and they're in a bad spot. Both teams, in fact, are bad defensively. So I know this is probably going to be a bit of a higher scoring game. The total is 159 right now, and I know that has a tendency to be more favorable to the favorite, but I don't think so. Like in this case, I just don't like it. I like Cleveland State. Cleveland State just got blown out at Oakland. Oakland's one of the better teams in this Horizon League this year, so I'm not going to put too much weight into that. Yeah, they're playing a third straight road game, which does worry me a little bit, but the spot is worse for Detroit here, man. Detroit just played really close against Wright State. Wright State is currently atop this conference. That was a big game for Detroit Mercy. They played really close with Wright State, coming on the heels of playing Robert Morris as well, and Robert Morris won the conference last year, and they're in the upper half again this year. And now after they play lowly Cleveland State, who's at the bottom, only above IU Indy, who is just just running the floor, not playing any defense, whatever. Detroit Mercy plays Northern Kentucky next, and that's also a bigger game. Northern Kentucky is right behind the conference leaders right now, so I think this is a sandwich spot. But let's make this even better. This is a road reversal revenge angle because we're looking at a second meeting already here because Detroit Mercy already played Cleveland State at Cleveland State and beat them by 12. So the reason why this works is not really revenge necessarily. It's not really necessarily that, oh, this team is going to be really angry or whatever, but the team that lost should be motivated for sure. Then the team that won that previous game, you could definitely call their motivation into question. And that's what I'm doing here. And I'm doing that because they're in a sandwich spot. And now on top of that, they also beat Cleveland State the first time. So I think that makes it easier for them to overlook Cleveland State. And that's part of the reasoning for why this type of situation works more often than it doesn't. But if you dive into the box score, it'll really indicate something here, even though I know Cleveland State is bad. But Cleveland State was favored in this game, and not just according to ESPN here, but I went back and I actually said, okay, well, it said ESPN was giving Cleveland State a 68.4% chance to win this game or whatever, 67.4. I'm like, that can't quite be right? So I went and I looked at what the odds were on this game. Cleveland State was actually like a 3-point favorite in this game. So how does Cleveland State go from being a 3-point favorite on, I think this was December 6th, and then a month later, they're on the road and they're a 7-point underdog? What? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the line should probably be 4, like even if you want to say, well, these teams, like we've seen more from these teams, so we kind of know more about what these teams are, right? So, okay, so maybe the line should be like 5 on Detroit, or 7 to me seems like a big-time overreaction. And if you look at this game, this result was actually misleading. Cleveland State actually won the rebounding battle in the game 42-33. So Cleveland State, in a way, was the better team. They lost the turnover battle badly, 13-6, which usually you don't see from a home team. So that was part of the reason they lost the turnover battle, and that's something that can be cleaned up. Again, they won the rebound battle, which is the most predictive stat. And Cleveland State shot horribly in the game. They shot 31% from the field. So that's the other reason why they lost. I know Cleveland State's not a good team, but they're better offensively than defensively. So you got to think they're going to have a better shooting percentage this time in this one. that was a bit of an outlier as well. So, yeah, for all those reasons, I like Cleveland State in this one. We don't really see the percentages yet. We're getting 7.5 on this. That's my first play. Cleveland State, as ugly as it is, we're going with the Vikings. Correct. Yeah, the Vikings. Eagles, yes, I'm going to talk about that game towards the end. I don't know about a miracle catch. I mean, the Rams had some time left to still win that game, right? Like Carolina had the ball one more time at the end. It was a really good catch and throw there to Parkinson or whatever. But the Rams, I don't know, man. It seemed at that point it was pretty definitive that the Rams were going to score to win the game there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't quite want to call it a miracle. They're not the Chicago Bears. Kyle, what's up, man? Oh, shit. Dude, I apologize. Why do I keep doing this, man? That's 2 days in a row. Thank you for letting me know. That's 2 days in a row I've forgotten to do this. Yeah, I apologize, man. So, yeah, I talked about Illinois, Iowa here. You can see the market here. I disagreed with that one, and then I did talk about Memphis, FAU. You can see the market here for that one that I talked about. The numbers have moved a little bit since I talked about them, and then here's this Detroit-Cleveland State game I just talked about. So there you go. But yeah, for me, as I said, I disagree with the market in the Illinois-Iowa game. I lean Iowa slightly, but they're looking like a public dog, which obviously I really don't like that. And then I agree with, I side with Memphis against FAU. I don't know if it's an agreement at this point because those percentages have shifted. Okay. Merrimack at St. Peter's, I guess I'll talk about because I did talk about these teams the other day. I apologize. I got Siena wrong. Siena put themselves in a massive hole in that game, and they almost climbed out of it, but they were never going to cover as a favorite. The market agreed with me on Siena, but did not turn out that way. This Merrimack team playing well in the MAAC, but Merrimack is now coming off a nice road win, underdog upset win. They're going on the road again to face St. Peter's, and up next, look at this run that Merrimack has next. They got Quinnipiac, Marist, and Iona all coming up after St. Peter's here. So that's a big run, although I'm not going to say they're necessarily going to overlook St. Peter's because St. Peter's is right behind them. But Quinnipiac is a huge game up next, man. So you could definitely argue there's a little bit of a look ahead there. And for St. Peter's, of course, we did fade them here on the show in their last game. They lost to Mount St. Mary's, so we got that correct. I thought that was a sandwich spot, and part of the reasoning behind that also meant they would show up for a game against Merrimack, which I think they will. Merrimack's atop the conference, so if I was going to play this game, I would lean towards St. Peter's. I think Merrimack will take their first conference loss here if I were to guess. St. Peter's is up from 1.5 to 2 here. It's going to be a low-scoring game like these Merrimack games always are. 129.5 is the total, but you're basically just trying to pick the winner here. 80% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on St. Peter's. The money agrees with St. Peter's. No, fuck you, Jeffrey. No, the Bears are absolutely lucky. Dude, they won like 7 games by 1 score. Anybody who saw any of that game yesterday knows they were lucky as fuck. They're a fucking lucky team. They're not winning with skill. Caleb Williams was terrible in the game, as I already said. They're ass. They're absolutely a fucking fraud. They're not winning the next game. That's just definitive. They're not good. Like, this is so obvious to anybody that watches this team. They're the most fraudulent team in NFL history. They're not winning the Super Bowl ever with Caleb Williams. It's not happening. Their defense is like a bottom 5 defense. The offense isn't even that good. They're getting destroyed in these games and then somehow winning them anyway. Like last night, if Green Bay does one smart thing, they put the game away. And they failed to do that repeatedly. It's like the fucking, I don't even know what it is. It's not even like the Patriots under Belichick or anything, because at least with that team, they had a good defense. This isn't even that. And well, I guess Tom Brady, whatever. Caleb Williams is not him. No. The Bears are not winning a Super Bowl anytime in the near future. The Bears are going to be, they're going to be the prime team total, season win total under next year. You should absolutely put money on their win total under next year, because it's going to come out at like 9.5, and people are going to all flock to the over. They're basically the Washington Redskins from last year. That's who they are. Washington came from out of nowhere. Oh, yeah, all right. And now you think this team is good, even though their defense blows dick and their quarterback probably does as well. Not Jaden Daniels, but in this case, Caleb Williams. No. They've overperformed unbelievably this year. They're going to have a massive regression next year. They're going to be Washington next year. They might not even get to 6-7 wins next year. This team blows, except for their coach. So good luck to them against the Philadelphia Eagles in the next round here. Good luck when they're facing a defense that's even better than Green Bay's and is not missing their best player like Green Bay is. Well, best player, Parsons, I don't know. The dude needs like an epidural before he plays every game, or he did before he went down. Northern Kentucky at Green Bay, I'm going to point out, because Northern Kentucky has the way better record here, but they're not favored by much, man. I mean, it looks kind of easy to play Northern Kentucky in this game. I think I would probably lean to Green Bay. Northern Kentucky, I don't know. I mean, it's not really that much of a situational play. I just thought the line looked a little bit strange on this because Green Bay has been pretty bad. But maybe Doug Gottlieb is doing something with this team because they've actually won 3 games in a row now, which kind of surprised me. Green Bay's coming from out of nowhere. So, I don't know. I kind of lean to Green Bay in this game. I don't really have much of a situational reason to do so, but Northern Kentucky, 82% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on Northern Kentucky. They're minus 3.5. I don't know. I mean, when I went through the games, that one it looked weird to me for some reason. I don't know. Maybe just because I'm completely out of it right now. But no, we have to stop saying that these teams, just because they're winning, that they're actually like good or that they're not lucky teams or whatever. Like, yeah, there are teams that repeatedly get lucky, and this is one of those situations, and you have to be able to identify that, the Chicago Bears, because that's how you identify teams that are going to be overvalued and whatever, and teams that you should fade in the market, and they are obviously one of them. North Texas at Wichita State. North Texas is coming off 3 pretty big games in a row where they lost by 9 at Memphis. They beat Tulsa, delivering Tulsa, I think, only their second loss of the season, and looks like it sent them spiraling, Tulsa. And then North Texas played close against South Florida the next game. Those 3 teams are all pretty good in the conference. Now they got to go on the road to face Wichita, who's, I think, pretty underrated right now. Wichita is just kind of sitting down there near the bottom of the conference, nobody paying attention to them. And North Texas has Tulane up next, and they're in the driver's seat in the conference right now. So I think this is kind of a sandwich spot here. I like Wichita in this game. And it's also a really, like, the line looks so weird, right? Like, why is Wichita favored by almost 7 points here when they're 9-7 and North Texas is 10-6? The line looks ridiculous. Well, the odds makers are telling you Wichita is really, really under the radar right now and a lot better than their record looks. And Wichita is also coming off losing at home to Rice, which is a really ugly loss. So you got to think maybe they were even looking ahead. You got to expect a bounce back from Wichita here. So I like Wichita a lot in this game, and I almost wanted to make this a play, although the market looks like it's kind of disagreeing with me. It's up down from 7.5 to 7, 75% of the tickets, 71% of the cash on Wichita. What I'm really worried about is the total. The total has gone up, but it's still a very low 131.5. North Texas, and both of these teams like to play it slow, especially North Texas. So I'm worried about this being one of those slow, grinding games where no team is really going to be able to get margin. That's what worries me. But if I was going to play it, I would lay it with Wichita. And this was close to being a play for me. It's on ESPNU in the afternoon. It's tempting. I'll stay away, though, but KenPom has Wichita almost cracking the top 100, believe it or not. And he has Wichita as the unluckiest team in all of basketball. Literally, 365th out of 365, man. Wichita State is the most undervalued team in college basketball, according to KenPom. So there you go. Although it is a concern that they're not good defensively, though. They're a little bit better offensively. So North Texas in this game is the better defense, getting points. And you know me, sometimes I do like to look that way. Better defense getting points. But situationally, I think it sets up pretty well for Wichita. And Wichita generally, I think, is a very undervalued commodity that's going to be overlooked. There's a reason why they're a 7-point favorite here. But in a spot, like in a matchup like this, I worry about the X's and O's in a matchup like that. So that's the concern there. Wright State and Oakland should be a good game in the horizon on ESPN2. These are two teams that are right at the top of the conference. They're both one-loss teams in the conference. Wright State just kind of had a scare at Detroit, although this is going to be their third straight road game, which isn't easy, but they should show up focused after they almost lost to Detroit. Oakland is coming off an easy win over Cleveland State, which I already mentioned. So they should be in a good position to play well in this game as well. They're staying at home, which makes it a little bit easier for them in a way. The money is coming in on Wright State. I don't really disagree with that. Oakland's a 4.5-point favorite here. 50% of tickets and 80% of the cash on Wright. I don't mind the Wright State side there, just because I think they're coming off that game that was an uglier performance that I think is just going to seriously focus them in this game. But travel-wise, it's worse for Wright State in the game. Cincinnati at UCF, yeah. This game is it is interesting. ESPN2, 5 p.m. I think both of these teams like to play fast, and I think actually both of them, let me see what UCF does, because I know Cincinnati is extremely lopsided. Like, they play good defense, and they're terrible offensively. UCF is kind of the opposite, actually. UCF is the, UCF is the more typical, like, fast-paced team where they're better offensively than defensively. And UCF is a pretty lucky team. It's 77th in luck, according to KenPom. Whereas Cincinnati is the third unluckiest team. So we just talked about the luckiest team. Cincinnati's 363rd, according to KenPom. So KenPom is telling you there might be some value in Cincinnati. And I agree with Cincinnati in this game. This is not on my card, but Cincinnati is coming off a loss to West Virginia. Not a great loss. I mean, you could kind of predict that. I think, we might have had West Virginia in that game. I think I did. I think I gave out West Virginia in that game. West Virginia, I mean, they're a slow-down team, man. They ugly it up. They have North Texas's former coach. They play really ugly. Cincinnati had come off a big game against Houston the game before that, and they had UCF on deck. So that was a sandwich spot. So part of that handicapping process is that Cincinnati should be focused on UCF here. And I think they will be. Also, UCF plays fast, which is what Cincinnati wants to do. West Virginia does not do that, and neither does Houston. So should be a game that's more to Cincinnati's liking. They should show up focused because it was an ugly game against West Virginia, and part of that handicap was that they already would be focused on UCF. UCF is coming into this having lost a long win streak. They hadn't lost since the second game of the season. They face a pretty easy schedule, and this is a win for us on the show, too, with Oklahoma State. They got the win for us here. UCF was I think they were in a letdown spot because they had just played Kansas. They beat Kansas the game before that. That was a big win for UCF. So I think they were in letdown mode after that. However, this might be a situation where they lose the game twice effectively, because when you lose a long win streak like this, man, it can hang you over. They got Kansas State up next. Will they pay more attention to Kansas State? I don't know, because Kansas State's been awful this year, so it's not really a look ahead. But it could be one of those like hangover spots from taking your first loss in a long, long time. So I like Cincinnati in this game. It's not on my card, but that is what I would do in this game. I would take the points. The money seems to agree on this one. UCF's 3.5, maybe 4 in this one. 92% of tickets, 81% of the cash on them. Very heavily public, actually, because I think they're still ranked as well, and Cincinnati isn't. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. I would take the points with Cincinnati. It's one of my stronger opinions of the day as well. So that one almost makes a card. I like Cincinnati. I like Wichita. So there's that information for you. Next up is my other play. I told you this is ugly. It is really ugly, man. We're going to be on Rutgers plus the points against Northwestern on Peacock at 5 p.m. This is a sandwich spot that Northwestern is in, man. Northwestern is coming off a game against Michigan State on the road. They lost by 10, but if you dig into this box score, Northwestern was in this game, man. Northwestern was winning the game at halftime. They were winning pretty deep into the second half. They fell behind by a bit, and then they clawed their way back into the game. And they were only losing this game by 3 with 2 minutes left in the game. So Northwestern played the full game, man. It was a full effort against a physical Michigan State team. Northwestern didn't go away, so that was a monster game. Now they got to go to Rutgers and play this pretty atrocious Rutgers team and play slow again. Is that really what they're going to want to do? I don't know. Probably not. And look who Northwestern plays next. Illinois, which is not only a ranked team and one of the best teams in this conference, but that's also a rivalry because both teams are in the Chicago area, so that is a huge rivalry game. Those teams do not like each other at all, so that is a monster game that they have to play on Wednesday, and then they play Nebraska after that. So this is a sandwich. So it's a Sunday afternoon sandwich here for you, man. For Rutgers, Rutgers is coming off losing to that Illinois team on the road, getting absolutely blown out. Now Rutgers is coming back home, and Rutgers has been better, at least at home, in conference play so far. They lost by 7 at home to Ohio State. They beat Oregon, who I know isn't that good, but Rutgers still playing more competitively at home. And then they lost at home against Purdue by 16. But, I mean, that's not a horrible loss, obviously. Purdue is pretty much an elite team, so Rutgers is better at home. I think they're going to show up for this one. Nobody wants to get blown out 81-55 by anybody, so I think they're going to be happy. They're going to be back home. They're going to focus on Northwestern. Northwestern is in a horrible spot. Rutgers is the play here. The money is disagreeing with me, at least for now. 62% of the tickets, 89% of the cash on them. I don't understand it. Northwestern's a 4.5-point favorite here. And yes, obviously, I know Rutgers is bad. There's no question about that. Ken Bum has them at 160th. He has them as a lucky team, too, which I worry about. But they're actually a little bit better defensively than offensively, at the very least. And we're asking them to cover as an underdog here. They play slow, so I like that. Northwestern also plays slow, although not as slow. And Northwestern is actually the second unluckiest team in the whole country. And yes, that usually means you don't want to fade them, I know, but sometimes Ken Bum's not, like everything that you look at here is just not going to line up, man, in every situation. And yes, I know Northwestern's the better team overall, obviously. And we just saw, like, we have the 3 unluckiest teams, according to Ken Bum, all playing today, which is crazy. But the spot is just horrible for Northwestern here. So Rutgers is the play there. And then the board finishes with another Big Ten game on Peacock that's going to be overlapping with that one. So Peacock has both of these games. Ohio State at Washington. Ohio State is already out on the West Coast. They just beat Oregon, where I thought that was a difficult spot for Ohio State, man. I'm surprised that they won that game. I almost wanted to make a play on Oregon in that one. Oregon, really not very good. Ohio State had played close against Nebraska the game before that, and then they had to go out to the Pacific Coast, and they won anyway. Now they're at least adjusted to the Pacific Coast now, but I don't know how much focus Ohio State's going to have on Washington. They play UCLA after they come back home. That might be a little bit of a look ahead, maybe a bigger game, because UCLA has that name recognition. Washington hasn't been playing that well, and Washington did just lose at Purdue, but that was a tough game. Obviously, nobody wins at Purdue except for Iowa State. Washington played well in that game, though. They played them to within 8. So, in that respect, Washington is coming off kind of a tough game. Although, if you look into that box score, though, Washington was pretty much done in that game. Like, they were down double digits going to the wire there in that game. So, you know, I think Washington probably will get up for this game, I would guess. Because that game, again, I don't think they're going to be in a hangover spot because that game wasn't quite as close as it looked like on the scoreboard. So I will lean with the market in this one towards Washington. It's a slight lean for me. 58% of the tickets, 55% of the cash on Ohio State. Ohio State, a dreaded public underdog. So I think you're going to get Washington at least as a little bit of an anti-public favorite in that one at the very least. But we got my 2 plays there that I think are the best situational angles. And then, like I said, my other opinions that I do like are Cincinnati and Wichita. I like those 2 games. NHL, Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a game for the Bruins. I think the Bruins are going to lose. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed they're going to lose. Yeah, yesterday's game was bigger for the Bruins, man. That's just all there is to it. Pittsburgh is still a paper tiger. NHL, we have New Jersey at Winnipeg is the first game up. This is probably the game I actually like the best. Well, maybe not. Washington, Nashville might be. Those two games are probably the ones that I have a stronger opinion on, but I don't like either one enough to make a play. New Jersey, Winnipeg is on NHL Network at 2 p.m. New Jersey, they're not playing well right now, man. They just lost 4-1 at Pittsburgh, and what I thought was going to be a spot where New Jersey would show up, coming off a 9-0 loss. You got to expect the team is going to bounce back from that. It didn't happen. If you look at this game statistically, New Jersey probably should have won the game. Like, what happened in this game, I have no idea. Like, the statistics don't bear out a 4-1 loss at all. The teams had the same amount of shots. New Jersey was the way more physical team, 25-10 in hits. Pittsburgh, the pussy Penguins back at it, not being physical at all. And New Jersey also won the face-off battle fairly significantly, 56%. By the way, the face-off battle in that game we lost last night was unbelievable. Vancouver lost the face-off battle like 70%. Yeah, look at that shit. How do you lose 70% of face-offs in a game, man? I don't know how that happened in that game last night. I'm pissed still. Awful. But anyway, New Jersey, they were better than they looked in that game against Pittsburgh. Winnipeg is coming into this, though, maybe with some newfound momentum because they finally won a game. They clobbered the Kings. Surprisingly, it was on a back-to-back off of playing Edmonton pretty close, and it was without Hellebuck in net, so go figure. Hellebuck should be back for this game, and maybe Winnipeg has some new momentum in this one, man, because when you break a long losing streak like this, it'll like get that monkey off your back, and you'll play better a lot of times. So I think both teams are actually going to show up in this game, so this is actually one of those games where I actually might think an under might actually be worth a look in this game, Jeffrey. 83% of the tickets are on the over, 93% of the cash, but totals at 5.5, which is one of the lower totals, although it's almost 6. It's not one of the higher totals that you'll see in the NHL, though. I think an under might make sense in this game. I also lean to New Jersey slightly. 62% of the tickets, 78% of the cash on New Jersey, just because they looked misleadingly bad based on the score of their last game. I think they're going to be the angrier team coming into this one, although Winnipeg might have that new momentum, like I said. But yeah, 63% of tickets, 78% of the cash on the Devils. Winnipeg is a minus 125 favorite, though, which is also one reason I kind of don't love New Jersey here, because you look at the team's records and it's like, how could Winnipeg be a favorite, right? So the odds makers are telling you these teams are almost evenly matched for the most part there. Pittsburgh at Boston. The setup for this game is just way better for Pittsburgh, even though, I keep saying Pittsburgh's not that good. They're a very streaky team. I'm not really impressed by the streak they went on, where some of their wins were just whatever. They beat Chicago. They beat Columbus in overtime. New Jersey looks like they haven't figured it out. And now Pittsburgh just lost to Calgary yesterday. And yeah, that broke a win streak for Pittsburgh. So I talk about when you lose a win streak, sometimes you'll be hung over into the next game. They are having to travel from Pittsburgh to Boston back-to-back. Bruins are on a back-to-back as well, but they're staying at home. So yeah, the travel spot, I guess, is a little bit better for the Bruins. Pittsburgh will be coming off an ugly loss, though. Pittsburgh is playing a third game in 4 days now. They do have Tampa Bay next, so I don't know if that's going to be a look ahead or not. Possibly. So there are some reasons to like Boston here, but the main reason to not like them at all is because the Bruins had a historic game yesterday against one of their rivals. I'm telling you, the Rangers are a bigger game for the Bruins than Pittsburgh is. The Rangers, they're a New York team. They're an original 6 team. It's a huge game for the Bruins. The Bruins just embarrassed them 10-2 yesterday, and the Bruins are also on the back-to-back, playing 3 games in 4 days as well. The Bruins are staying at home, but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, the fact that they're coming off a 10-goal outburst, and they're going to have Korpisalo in net here instead of Swayman, so that is a step down, of course, although they won the last game with Korpisalo in net. Yeah, I mean, I don't love the Bruins in this spot. Any team that just put up 10 goals, it's like such a rare occurrence that I don't think you want to look to play that team in the next game. And that was just absurd. I was going to say, I thought they scored like 7 goals in one period, but that wasn't the case. It went 3-4-3, but that's still absolutely outrageous. They had 7 goals before the third period even started. I think maybe that was the stat that I saw, that maybe that was the first time the Bruins had ever done that. I don't know what it was. But, I mean, I put the game on late in the first period, and it was 2-1, so it looked like it was kind of an ordinary game. Yeah, it was an insane game for the Bruins, though. I mean, it's not a situation where I'd want to play the Bruins after that. I don't love Pittsburgh by any means either. The money is saying Pittsburgh. I'll slightly agree with that, but I don't love it. The odds makers are still telling you the Bruins are not good. If they're a home underdog against Pittsburgh, who the odds makers don't like. The odds makers don't like Pittsburgh either, but they're really shitting on the Bruins. 55% of tickets, 89% of the cash on Pittsburgh. Minus 115 favorite there. I'll slightly lean that way as well, but I don't like the game at all, really. Washington at Nashville. Man, this is going to be like an hour and a half show. Fuck. I thought it was going to be shorter because it's a short board, and we haven't even gotten to the NBA, which is one of the bigger portions of the day. Washington just won 5-1 at Chicago. This is a game where we have a common previous opponent. Washington now going to Nashville, coming off a satisfying win, and Washington does have Montreal next, so it is possible they have more focus on that game because Montreal's been pretty good. Nashville also just played Chicago, and whereas Washington, I think, won at Chicago, right, 5 to whatever it was, Nashville lost at home to them. Yeah, 5-1. Nashville lost at home 3-0 to them, although it was yesterday, so yeah, Nashville's on a back-to-back. And Nashville does have Edmonton up next, and they did just lose 6-2 at Edmonton. So will they look ahead? I think they won't because Washington is still a pretty big game. Coming off a shutout loss, I think it does make sense to look towards Nashville here. People are going to look at this and think it's easy to play Washington because, if Washington could crush Chicago on the road and then Chicago beat Nashville at home easily, this is obvious, right? You play Washington here. It doesn't work that way. I lean to Nashville in this one. However, the money looks like it doesn't agree with it. Washington is actually starting to look like an anti-public road favorite. As insane as that sounds, how could the public be on Nashville? Makes no sense. 65% of the tickets and cash on Nashville. Washington's up to minus 148 for minus 145. I don't understand that. I lean Nashville slightly in that game, but I don't want to get involved. I don't have any hockey today. And it probably is going to be a noon in net for Nashville today, although they did win his last 2 games, so we'll see. Because Saros played yesterday. Columbus at Utah. Don't have much of a feel for this game. Columbus is coming off getting blown out by Colorado 4-0, but they're on a back-to-back in elevation. Playing 2 straight games in elevation with no break is not easy, man. And they're playing a 3rd game in 4 days and a 4th game in 6 days, all in different cities. So even though they're going to try to salvage a game on the road trip, Greaves should be back in net. He got the rest yesterday. It's still a pretty difficult travel spot for Columbus at the very least, man, even though it could debatably be a bounce-back spot where they should have some focus. Utah just beat St. Louis at home. Don't really know if they're going to have a full focus staying at home against Columbus. It's not really a letdown spot either. They play Toronto next, which I'm not really sure is that much of a look ahead either. The market is saying Columbus. 69% of the tickets are on Utah. 55% of the cash on Columbus. Utah up to a minus 180 favorite here. I don't really have much of a reason to disagree with Columbus in this one, except that the travel spot is pretty ugly. So I'm staying away. And Utah has more rest as well, I believe, because they didn't play yesterday, I don't believe. So that's those are my thoughts on that. Not a ton of thoughts on that game, really, but market is saying, yeah, Columbus. I mean, I guess, again, I'll slightly agree with it just because that's what the market says, but don't have a strong feel for it at all. And the market could change, of course. Vegas at San Jose. Vegas is starting a road trip, and they just beat St. Louis, so they're coming into this road trip with momentum where I don't think Vegas will be overconfident, although they are on a back-to-back. They beat St. Louis yesterday, but travel from Vegas to San Jose, that's not a long trip, really. So I think they are starting the road trip with some focus, at least with some momentum. San Jose also played yesterday, and look at what they did yesterday. They beat Dallas in overtime. That was a huge win for San Jose, man. So even though they should show up for Vegas, especially because they lost 7-2 at Vegas back on December 23rd, likely they'll try to show up, but they're going to have to put in this huge effort 2 games in a row, and I just think that's going to be difficult for San Jose to really accomplish that. So I do like Vegas in this game. I don't want to make it a play or anything, but yeah, the market agrees with Vegas in this one. They're down from -170 to -165 on the money line. 79% of the cash on them, 71% of the tickets on San Jose. So San Jose is looking like a public dog in this game, which sounds insane. But San Jose actually has more wins than losses, even including overtime losses, which is crazy. But Vegas actually does not. Vegas actually has more losses. Just a ton of them are in overtime. Vegas are the overtime kids, man. It's insane to think about it. But yeah, that's what's going on in that game. I think the spot is better for Vegas, though. Vegas, yeah, they've beaten San Jose twice. I put more stock into the recent blowout win that Vegas had against them, because when it's recent, you kind of remember it, and then you remember what went wrong, and you can kind of adjust to it. So there is that, but I still like Vegas in this game. Like, how does San Jose put in another effort after beating Dallas in overtime last night? You know, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to do that in this game. So let's go to the NBA. I actually have 3 NBA plays, like I said. Hopefully I'm going to be right about all 3. How about that? I think the market agrees with all 3. I'm scrolling through quickly right now. Let me see. Does it? I forget what my third... Yeah, the market is agreeing with all 3. I was like, I forget what my third play is. You guys can try to guess what they are in this one. All right. NBA. We do have some afternoon NBA. New Orleans is at Orlando. New Orleans might have some new momentum here because they just finally got a win against Washington. They're not going to be overconfident, but that broke another long loss streak that New Orleans had. They hadn't won for a long time, not since December 22nd. So they finally got a win. I think that'll break their losing momentum. I think they will show up for a game against Orlando. Now, Orlando, it might be more questionable, the spot that they're in. Orlando did just lose to Philadelphia by double digits, so you think, well, maybe they should bounce back here. But how much focus will they have on New Orleans when Orlando has to go in the middle of this week? They have to go Thursday, Sunday. They're going to be playing Memphis in Berlin. They're going to Germany. The Germans. I hate this shit, man. I hate the Europe shit, the international shit. It throws everything off, although it gives us some handicapping angles to look at where that could make this a look-ahead spot for Orlando here. So I think it is at least some sort of negative for Orlando that they might have to look ahead to that, even though it is against Memphis, which is not exactly the biggest opponent, but... if we look at what Orlando's doing here in this game, I think the market read is agreeing with me on the Pelicans here. I lean Pelicans. Magic are 6.5-point favorite. 81% of the tickets are on the Magic, only 69% of the cash. So they're a public team, less of the money on them. I agree with New Orleans in that one, but it's not a strong opinion. The other team involved in that look-ahead spot is where I'm going to be here. Fading that team, I should say. I don't know where Saab is, but I'm pretty much going to guarantee he's going to agree with this. We're going to be on the Brooklyn Nets, plus 7.5 against Memphis. Brooklyn's coming off getting pretty much wrecked by the Clippers by 16 at home. So I think it might be a good thing for them to just go out on the road. And you can see that spot wasn't very good because Brooklyn had just beaten Denver, which was a win for us on Sunday. And then they lost in overtime against Orlando. So they were coming into that game against the Clippers off of 2 pretty big games, man, and they just didn't have it against the Clippers. But now they're going out on the road, coming off a bad loss. I think that's a good thing. Leave home, go out on the road. Usually you're going to be focused to start the road trip. I think they will be. Whereas for Memphis, look at the spot that Memphis is in. Memphis just played on Friday against Oklahoma City, and they lost by 1. And Memphis was winning this game, dude. If you see how this game played out, Memphis was almost guaranteed to win this game. They were blowing Oklahoma City out in this game. Memphis had a huge lead, like a double-digit lead the whole game, basically. Memphis was winning this game by 20 points in the second half. They were still winning the game by 14 with 6 minutes left, and they somehow lost. They were winning by 10 with 3.5 left, and they lost the game. How do you possibly get back up off the mat after that, man? After you were annihilating the Thunder, the elite team in the league, and it would have been playoff revenge for Memphis as well, because Memphis lost to the Thunder in the playoffs last year, and they still have not beaten them since then. And this is their third try at it, and this is what happens. And they pretty much have OKC dead to rights, and they lose the game somehow. Unbelievably brutal. Now Memphis has to come over that game and play the Brooklyn Nets. And then up next, they got to go to Berlin and play Orlando twice, which I think they're going to be looking ahead to that game. Horrible, horrible spot for Memphis here. We're going to be on the Brooklyn Nets. That's the play in this one. 74% of the tickets are on the Grizzlies, 52% of the cash on the Nets. And the Grizzlies, by the way, are still without Zach Edey, and they're without John Morant, who's been out for, I think, a few games at this point as well. So the Grizzlies are shorthanded right now as well, though I know I keep saying Morant kind of negatively impacts chemistry when he's in there. But it's a shorthanded Grizzlies team here, man. Horrible spot for them. The total's actually fairly low as well at 220.5. So taking the points a little bit better looking with a lower NBA total there. Nets plus the points is the first play there. You can get that key number 7.5. Hold on a second while I'll scroll down so you can look at the rest of the board here. Rockets Kings, I think it's the last game on the board. I need to clear my sinuses again, man, as I usually do. I will be back in a second.
He's a bubble boy.
A bubble boy?
Yes, a bubble boy.
What's a bubble boy?
He lives in a bubble.
Boy.
All right, let's do this. Yes, I have the bubble boy drop now. Oh yeah, I should bring up. I should have more. Dude, you can have a Seinfeld reference for everything, man. The sniffling accountant or whatever. That's what I should have a clip of that. All right, Philadelphia 76ers are at Toronto here. This game is kind of hard for me to figure out, because I kind of think both teams are going to show up for it. Philadelphia did just have a decent win at Orlando. Now they are having to travel up to Canada through customs here. So I don't know if that's going to be a little bit more difficult of a travel spot. Toronto is coming off a loss at Boston, that's probably a more difficult game, though. Playing at Boston, it's a big game. And they're traveling back home from that. So I think the spot is a little bit worse for Toronto because they are coming off that big game. Although I think this is a game where both teams are going to want to try to show up for it. The money is actually coming in on the Raptors, though I kind of disagree. The Sixers are a 4.5-point favorite here. 73% of the tickets on the Sixers, 64% of the cash coming back on Toronto. I'm not sure that I love Toronto coming off the Boston game, man. That's what I will say. Although Philadelphia did just have that win over Orlando again, which is a pretty decent win. You always have to see who's in the lineup and who's out for Toronto. Or excuse me, for Philadelphia. Although really it's just Embiid. I mean, he's always a game-time decision. Philly looks pretty healthy otherwise. Toronto looks pretty unhealthy. Barnes is going to be a game-time decision. That's a pretty big deal. Barrett has been out for a while. He looks like he's coming back potentially tomorrow, though. So that'll definitely help. I think Barrett is like one of the top few scorers that Toronto has. So they need him back at some point. Yeah. I don't have that Sixers song as a drop. Maybe I should try to make a drop out of it. I don't know. Because when I played it as the intro that day, I was playing the YouTube video. I think I just lost the water bottle cap here, my microplastics. Yes, 10, 9, 8, 76ers. All right. People are high on on Philly. Yeah. They'll be in the playoffs. But that's all I can really say about that. I think Philadelphia will make the playoffs and then lose. Seems to be what's going to happen here. The Knicks are at Portland. The Knicks are already out on the West Coast, I think. The Knicks, they took a loss at Phoenix, so they weren't quite in the Pacific time zone yet. That was a tough game, though. It was a 5-point loss. Phoenix is a decent team. Now the Knicks are going up to Portland. I could see it going two ways. Like, either they'll show up and try to get a win on this road trip, or they'll be a little bit hungover from a tough game against Phoenix. You got to try to figure out which it'll be. For me, it's a little bit difficult to gauge that. Portland could be in the worst spot potentially here, though, because they just beat Houston twice. We lost the zigzag, which was kind of bullshit, as Houston had a double-digit lead with 6 minutes to go in that game. I'm pretty pissed. Portland came back and got the win. Now, Portland should show up for a game against the Knicks, but I think it's going to be difficult, man. Staying at home, coming up those two big games against one of the best teams in their conference, the Western Conference. So I'll slightly lean to the Knicks in this one. The money seems like it is on that side. They're up from 4.5 to 4.5 with juice. 78% of tickets, 83% of the cash are on the Knicks. And then for Portland, you got to kind of keep your eye on the injury situation here. Jeremy Grant looks like he's still out. Drew Holiday is supposed to potentially come back today. We don't know yet. He's questionable, so that's something to look at. If Holiday comes back after a long period of time off, that could actually hurt Portland a little bit. I love Holiday, dude. He was great when he was on the Celtics. Really, really good defensive guard. But again, I always talk about how that first game back, especially a guy that kind of runs the offense, first game back after he hasn't been there for so long, everybody's got to kind of figure out their roles again, and it's kind of a transition process. So they have to trans themselves. It can be a bit difficult that first game back, so you might want to look to fade Portland that first game back, which might be tonight. So we'll see, but I'm leaning to the Knicks either way. And of course, if Holiday does come back, you'll probably get a little bit of a better number on the Knicks because the line will probably move down a little bit towards Portland. San Antonio is at Minnesota, and I was looking at this market, and I disagree with the market in this one. San Antonio just beat the Lakers and the Celtics, and they beat the Celtics yesterday. My Boston Celtics in Boston, and now they're having to travel with no time off. They got to travel from Boston into Minnesota, into the flames, the rioting of Minnesota here. To me, it doesn't look like a very good spot, man, even though I know usually you're going to get up for a game against the T-Wolves, but how do you do that when you just beat the Lakers, the Celtics, and you have the Thunder coming up on NBC, a nationally televised game on Tuesday night? So I actually think this is a sandwich spot that San Antonio is in. I don't like the spot. So I do lean to Minnesota in this game. It's just kind of a weird, crazy spot. And on the back-to-back like this, I think both teams might be on a back-to-back, but this is just kind of crazy, the travel that is involved in this one and the wins that they're coming off of. I mean, the Celtics-Lakers is the longest-standing rivalry, man, in the NBA. It's a major, major rivalry, and San Antonio just beat both of them. So, yeah, and they're both good teams this year. So, yeah, I mean, I don't love how that spot sets up at all. Minnesota just played Cleveland twice, which I think they played them yesterday. So, yeah, they played them in Cleveland. So, yeah, Minnesota's traveling back from Cleveland, although that travel leg is a little bit easier. Now, they lost yesterday. Cleveland zigzagged, so I was correct about Cleveland yesterday, getting the adjustments made and beating Minnesota after they lost the first game in Minnesota. Minnesota now, they lost a 4-game win streak, so, yeah, sometimes that will hang you over, but obviously I don't see Minnesota not showing up for a game against San Antonio. And to me, I think the spot sets up better for them. They're coming off a double-digit loss. They don't have a big game next. It's against Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee, I think, is still maybe being overlooked a little bit, although I'm going to fade that sentiment in a second, but they do have Giannis back, so I don't know. Milwaukee's kind of a mystery right now to try to handicap like what people think about them, because they're a mystery for everyone, man. But I lean to the T-Wolves in this game. The money is totally disagreeing with that. They dropped from 3 to 2.5, 57% of tickets on them, 77% of the cash coming back in on the Spurs. So the money is on the Spurs. The other thing you have to look at in this game is the injury status. So you have to do that for every team like this. So it's a pretty clean injury report. But Minnesota, I believe they didn't play Anthony Edwards the other day, AE, but I think it was a scheduled rest spot. Let me see. Oh, no, I'm wrong. He actually played both games against Cleveland. All right, so he did play in both games of the back-to-back. I'm pretty sure San Antonio did play Wemby yesterday, too. So both teams, I'm pretty sure, did play their best players yesterday on the back-to-back. But when Wemby came off the bench, actually, but that's what San Antonio's been doing. They've been matching him up against, for whatever reason, they've been matching him up against other teams' backups, and he just kind of dominates them. So actually, that is actually better for San Antonio, though, because he only played 26 minutes, and Anthony Edwards played like 35 or whatever. So there is that, at least, for the Spurs, although the Spurs' other starters did play pretty much their full complement of minutes. Well, kind of. They did actually have 3 guys play some pretty deep minutes off the bench. So San Antonio, I think they are the deeper team than the T-Wolves, though, so there is that. So all things to keep in mind there. Although situationally, I kind of lean Minnesota slightly. Miami is at the Thunder here. This game, I think both teams are going to be showing up. Miami just lost in a blowout at Indiana yesterday. They were probably looking ahead. And yes, it's a back-to-back, but the good thing for Miami is because of that postponed game against Chicago, Miami had 3 days off before the game yesterday, so they shouldn't be really tired or anything like that. And I think they were already looking ahead to Oklahoma City because that was a horrible game against Indiana. And Miami does have their full roster back, well, sort of. They have Hero and Adebayo back here. So you're getting basically Miami almost at full strength coming in here. So I think it's a decent spot for them. But I don't think I would want to fade Oklahoma City in the spot that they're in either, though, where they almost lost against Memphis, and they came back and won, so that was definitely a scare, although they did have to put in a huge effort to get that thing done, and Oklahoma City does have San Antonio and Houston on deck, so that's a pretty big look ahead, really. San Antonio actually is a huge look ahead for Oklahoma City because that's the one team Oklahoma City can't beat. They're 0-3 against San Antonio, and they get them at home on NBC on Tuesday, so actually, yeah, this is actually a huge look-ahead spot for the Thunder. So even though they're coming off a bad performance and a scare, I think if you play this game, you have to lean towards the Heat here. 65% of the tickets are on the Thunder. 60% of the cash are on the Heat. So the money agrees with the Heat. The Thunder down from 14.5 to 14. I still don't love the idea of fading the Thunder at home, though, because they just dominate at home. But that is a major look-ahead for Oklahoma City, though, so something to keep in mind there. I wish Oklahoma City was coming off like a huge game or something instead of a game where they almost lost to an inferior opponent, because then I'd probably be on Miami here. But fading Oklahoma City at home is also like taking your life in your hands, even though they've been a little bit worse at home recently. But they have tended to dominate over the last couple of seasons at home, winning by probably at least an average of like 16 points at home across the 2 seasons. Milwaukee at Denver is my next play. We are going to take the Denver Nuggets plus the points, and I know we're looking at Denver without Jokic, obviously, which is why we're getting them as an underdog at home. I know they haven't been that good at home, 10-6. We're fading Milwaukee, who haven't been good on the road, really, 8-12, although some of that was without Giannis. Sure, he is back, but the Nuggets look like they're basically going to have their other guys playing. Aaron Gordon, I already saw he's playing. He's probable, so he should play for Denver. And then Jamal Murray, you have to look at, is questionable, but I think if he can go, he will probably go. So to me, it looks like you're basically going to get Denver except for Jokic. And yes, they've been without Valanciunas for a while, which is not good. He's been out for, I think, about a week now, so that isn't great. That they lose Jokic, and then they lose Jokic light as well. That's not great, but I like how the spot sets up for Denver here, man. Milwaukee, they're coming into this game after beating LA, the Lakers, on the road, man, and they're finishing up a road trip here. They're 2-1 on the road trip. And yeah, I mean, arguably you won't want to go like even on the road trip, and usually you're going to be focused on Denver. But I don't know how much focus you put on Denver when they're without their best player, without Jokic here. Milwaukee, again, coming up beating the Lakers. That's a big road win for them. They do play Minnesota and San Antonio up next. I don't know if that's like a look ahead or anything like that. But I think the spot is actually positive for Denver because if you look at the spot that they're in, we faded them in their last game and they got blown out by Atlanta. And remember what I said about that game. That was a return home spot for Denver from a long road trip. So it was a really bad spot for Denver. Coming back home, having those distractions coming off of a long time away from home. But it was also even worse because they beat Boston in a huge comeback to finish the road trip. That was a huge game for them. So they dropped the game to Atlanta badly. We got a nice win on that one. Easy win. But what do I always say about the return home spot? When the team does really bad in that first game back, they tend to do a lot better the next game because it's like they have the stuff done that they needed to get done at home. They get shocked back into focus because holy shit, we just played bad in that game. We got to play better here, guys. And this is their last game on this quick homestand, so I think they will show up for this game, especially because Milwaukee does have Giannis now, so you're going to have more focus on them probably. And they go out on the road next, but they're only playing the Pelicans and the Mavs, so not really a look-ahead spot for Denver here. So I think they will have full focus in this game against Milwaukee. So it's the combination of Denver being in that second game back home off of a horrible loss. I like that. That's a positive spot. And Milwaukee, I think, is in a bit of a negative spot here. The Bucks are a 2-point favorite, as we can see now. It was 2.5. So either way, hopefully, is all right. 56% of the tickets and 85% of the cash on the Nuggets. The market does look like it is agreeing with me on the Denver side in that one. We got a few more games here. The next one up is my final play. It is the Washington Wizards. We're on some ugly dogs today, man. Plus 14.5 against the Phoenix Suns. We're going to do this one. Even though I know Washington just got Trae Young, and yeah, I do worry about that, and I don't think he's played yet, and this might be his first game with them, so you do have to worry about that a little bit. Let me see. Let me make sure of that. Yeah, he didn't play, so I think he is probably going to suit up and play in this game. So that's one thing you got to worry about, because when a team gets a star player like that, his first game with them, it can be a bit of a chemistry issue, and you don't know what you're going to get out of him. So actually, let's see if he's playing. Let me see. No, he's out, actually. So, all right, we don't even have to worry about that. He's not playing. Yes, that's better. We don't have to worry about the chemistry issue. Good. All right. Which sets up maybe a nice fade of Washington when he does play. So we don't have to worry about that. Sweet. All right, so we're getting Washington. It's just going to basically become a normal handicap. And the handicap is Washington just lost horribly to the New Orleans Pelicans by 21 at home. You can't really have much of a worse loss than that, man. Although I told you the Pelicans were favored on the road there. I kind of liked the Pelicans in that game. That is a horrible loss for Washington, though. They've lost by 20-plus in the last 2 games. I think they're going to show up for this one, man. They're starting a road trip. A lot of times you show up when you start a road trip, but starting a road trip is probably even better when you've lost a couple of games horribly at home. One of the best things to do is just forget about it, go on the road. For Phoenix, they just beat the Knicks, man. That was a huge win for Phoenix. And after this, they go on the road and they play Miami, Detroit, and then the Knicks again. So those are all 3 of those are bigger games, even though they're all Eastern Conference games. So is Washington. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the Suns already beat Washington by 14 in Washington on December 29th. So we have a little bit of a recent kind of zigzag type of spot setting up here where maybe Washington will be able to make some adjustments to that. The Phoenix just might not take Washington seriously after that. That plus it being a sandwich spot for Phoenix. We're on Washington here in this one. Phoenix has 54% of the tickets on them, but 67% of the cash on the Wizards. So there you go. That's that play. We are on the Wizards. We have 2 more games. Atlanta at Golden State. 2 more in the NBA, I should say. Atlanta coming into this game off of clobbering Denver. That was that game I just talked about. We got the win on that. That was a monster win for Atlanta, man. And now this might be the first game where Atlanta has C.J. McCollum, man. So that's something to keep in mind. He was the key component that they got out of that Trae Young deal. Let's see. It looks like he's not going to be in the starting lineup, though. So he might play. Let me see. Yeah, he hasn't played since the 6th. Let me see. Don't know. I don't know, but it looks like he might play, but he's listed as not being a starter on the depth chart, so that's not that bad for Atlanta. It looks like they're going to ease him in, so McCollum may play, but he may come off the bench, which is less of like a jarring chemistry thing, so that's not that bad for Atlanta, but I still think the spot is bad, dude. I actually think this is a sandwich spot, believe it or not. I think Golden State, I mean, they're just an old, mediocre team at this point, and they're a team you might overlook when you have them sandwiched in between Denver and the LA Lakers. So, yeah, Atlanta plays the Lakers next, and they're coming off the blowout win of Denver, where they caught Denver in a really bad spot for Denver as well, and without Jokic. So, I think it's a bad spot now for Atlanta, and they looked probably too good in that previous game. Golden State's just kind of hanging around at home. They just had an easy win over this god-awful Sacramento team. Golden State doesn't have this game surrounded by anything, so the setup to me looks a lot better for the Warriors in this game, although the money is disagreeing with this. I don't really understand why. I think if you play this game, you got to lay it with the Warriors or just pass on the game. 87% of tickets, 77% of the cash on the Warriors, though. And they dropped from 6.5 to 6. I don't really understand that. As far as the injury report is concerned for them, not really a whole lot going on for the Warriors. For the Hawks, Porzingis is a game-time decision. What else is new? That's always the case. It's like he has some chronic illness that always puts him on the injury report. And then we finish with Houston and Sacramento. Houston might be coming in with a little bit of anger, man, off of these losses, the back-to-back losses to Portland. They do not want to go 0-3 on this road trip, I wouldn't imagine. They play Chicago first when they come back home, so I think they actually might show up in this game against Sacramento. Sacramento is coming off a blowout loss, though, like I said, to Golden State. But this Sacramento team, I mean, they are pretty non-competitive in a lot of these games, man. Even though they'll probably try to show up for a game against Houston, it's just, I don't know, man. Seems not ideal when you might be getting a focused Rockets team here. The Rockets are a 13.5-point road favorite. The Kings, by the way, I didn't even realize, they did get Zach LaVine back a couple games ago. And, of course, they lost in his first game. I think they've lost every game with him back. But at least for the Kings, they do have him back. They're still without Sabonis. But this Kings team is a disaster, dude. I didn't even notice LaVine was back. 75% of tickets, 80% of the cash on the Rockets. I actually think I would lay it with the Rockets if I was going to play this game again. The NBA is a little bit of a different animal, man. It's not like the NFL where you rarely want to lay. Like, I'll pretty much never lay points on the road. I'll never lay a double-digit point spread on the road in the NFL, I should say. But in the NBA, there are occasions where you might want to because it's just a high-scoring game, man. So it's a little bit easier for a road team to win in a blowout like this in the NBA. I would probably lay it with Houston in that game if I was going to play it. All right, let's go to the NFL. I'm going to give you one NFL play here. And I know it's one that we've lost some value on. You probably already know what it is. The first game up in the NFL is Buffalo and Jacksonville on CBS. This is a really hard game for me to figure out, man. Buffalo, they're coming into this game off of a pretty nice finish to the season where they won whatever this is. 5 of their last 6 games, I think is what that is, with a home loss to Philadelphia. But look at their wins that they had, man. It's, it's a little bit question. I think you can call some of this into question. They beat Pittsburgh on the road, and I actually forgot about that game completely. If you remember, I think I said Buffalo was the right side in that game. I think Pittsburgh was in a bad spot for some reason or another in that game. So that's not really that impressive of a win. Buffalo beat Cincinnati after Cincinnati was beating them in Buffalo in that game. I mean, I know it was Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow is like the Buffalo kid or whatever. Like, he goes into Buffalo and just beats them like every time he goes in there. But Buffalo got really lucky to win that game, man. They pulled a win out of their ass in that game, and it was basically because Burrow threw a couple of picks in that game, I think including a pick 6. Then Buffalo was losing to New England 21-0 and wound up beating them. So you could say, well, Buffalo has heart, man. They keep winning. Yeah, but I don't know how impressive those wins are. And Cincinnati has a really atrocious defense. New England's defense is not that good either. So I don't know, man. And then Buffalo barely got by Cleveland, although, yes, that was a bad spot sandwiched in between New England and Philadelphia. Buffalo's offense complete no-showed against Philadelphia. Very, very strange, although I know Philly has a good defense. And then Buffalo finished the season by beating the Jets. Okay, who cares? Although the Jets did it with Mitch Trubisky pretty much in there, but it's the Jets, man. I mean, come on. The Jets, everybody just massacres the Jets. It's whatever. So, I don't know, man. I think Jacksonville may have actually had a more impressive finish to the season, even though they beat some bad teams in here as well, including the Jets. But they did beat Indianapolis twice, although I know it was the second time was Indianapolis with Phillip Rivers, and Rivers almost was able to somehow guide Indianapolis to a win there. The other time was the game where Daniel Jones went down, but Jacksonville was crushing Indy in that game anyway. They would have won that game anyway. They also had a pretty impressive win against the Chargers, 35-6. They did lose to Houston on the road in a game where I think Jacksonville had a lead really late in that game, and it looked like Jacksonville had that game put away. I don't know how they lost that game, and they won at Denver. So I don't know, man. Jacksonville has had some more impressive wins mixed in there, even though they've had some wins against cupcakes in there as well. I don't know. I think Jacksonville might be a little bit overlooked in this game, man. The money kind of is indicating on the Bills, 51% of tickets, 54% of the cash on them. The Jags flipped from a 1-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite, though. The money, like the line has been moving towards the Jags, man. So take from that what you want to, but it looks like the line is moving towards the Jags. I slightly lean to the Jags, and there also is not good history with Buffalo and with Josh Allen playing on the road and playing in Jacksonville, as Allen has only played in Jacksonville once, and it was 4 years ago, and Jacksonville won. But I know that was when Allen was younger and whatever. But Buffalo is pretty unfamiliar with playing in Jacksonville, man. The last couple times they played Jacksonville were London games, so they're not familiar with this venue. So the venue familiarity, I think, could be an edge to Jacksonville, though, of course, it's going to be good weather. It's going to be in Florida. It's going to be in the 60s. I think the weather is going to be pretty good in the game, so that at least doesn't hurt Jacksonville, because if Jacksonville was going into the cold, we might be talking about a different story here, but the weather should be good for both teams, although maybe Buffalo doesn't play as well in warmer weather. I don't know. But anyway, Buffalo, yeah, they don't have a good history in Jacksonville, really, or on the road in the playoffs. Josh Allen has never won a road playoff game. I think he's like 0-5 or something like that, or maybe even 0-8. I don't know. No, that doesn't make sense, because once you lose, you're out of the playoffs. That can't be right, but I think Buffalo has lost their last 8 road playoff games or something like that. And the craziest stat is that I believe Buffalo has not won a road playoff game in, so I don't know if it's just 0-8, but Buffalo's not won a road playoff game in 33 years. So they have not won a road playoff game since whatever that is, like the early 90s, since like the Jim Kelly days, it's Thurman Thomas. It's the days where Buffalo was making the Super Bowl every year and losing the Super Bowl every year. That was the last time Buffalo won a road playoff game. So I kind of like the Jags, man. The narrative seems to just be all about Josh Allen, and nobody's really talking about the Jags. Everybody's kind of talking about, oh, the field is open this year, and if Josh Allen doesn't do it, then we may have to consider him to not be an elite quarterback, whatever, because he doesn't have to go through Mahomes. He doesn't have to go through who was the other quarterback? Who else is out of the playoffs in the AFC? I forget. Chiefs are obviously out. He doesn't have to go through the Ravens. You know, I forget who else is out that's usually in the AFC. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what people are talking about here. Oh, the field is clear for Josh Allen this year. He doesn't have to go through those, so he should win, right? So that's what people are talking about. And, you know, if the Bills get through this game, I think the Bills do have a decent shot to do it, but this is not going to be easy. And X's and O's wise, I think the Bills are at a disadvantage here too, because Jacksonville has the better defense, and nobody's talking about their defense because Jacksonville's been scoring a ton, but their defense is good. And not only is their defense good, Jacksonville has a really good run defense. They're like a top 5 run defense. And the Bills, even though they have Josh Allen, the Bills actually run the ball. They're a run-first offense, and the run sets up the pass for Buffalo. James Cook, actually, I believe, overtook Jonathan Taylor to lead the league in rushing yards this year. So the Bills like to run the ball, and they're going to potentially struggle to do that against this Jags defense. And the Jags, they run the football well. offensively with ATN, and the Bills are bad at stopping the run. The Bills, they're not good defensively, dude. They're better defensively against the pass than against the run, but the Jags like to run the ball as well. So I think this matchup is not very good for the Bills. So long analysis there for me to say that I slightly lean to Jacksonville in the game, but I do not have that strong of an opinion on it. The game that I will give out as a play, and I jumped on this like a couple of days ago, but I know the line's a little bit higher, but you better get this at below a touchdown, man, because we're going with the Eagles. We're going to lay the points. I found it at 5.5. I wish I should have just jumped on it right away at 3.5, man. And yeah, this may or may not be a game that I actually did put a little bit of money on. Whereas I said, my money's not liquid right now, so I'm not actually full throttle betting like I had been. Full throttle being that I was actually betting all the games that I talk about up until I got fired unexpectedly and wasn't in a position to fund this thing the whole way. But I do like the Eagles in this game. Wish we got it at the opener of 3.5, but they're already up to 6. I mean, there's been some serious money coming in on the Eagles here. 54% of the cash on them, 54% of the tickets on the 49ers. Generally, this is an offense versus defense game, and I know I don't like to lay points with the better defense, and that is the Eagles, of course, here. But in this case, I think it might be warranted. Yes, the Eagles are the better defense. Yes, their offenses look pretty miserable at times, but they should be able to do something offensively against a Niners defense that's actually not very good. The Niners have been without their best 2 players on defense for basically the whole season, and I know they keep winning, but the Niners, you remember, I gave the Niners out as over their season win total. That was one of my win totals. I got all 3 of my win totals correct. The Niners were the only one I went over because I went under with the Chiefs and the Redskins. Why did I do that with the 49ers? Why was that one of my plays? Or one of my suggestions at the very least? Well, the Niners had the easiest schedule in football, at least to start the season. It didn't wind up that way based on what the teams actually were, but the 49ers still had one of the easiest schedules in football. So the Niners faced a pretty easy schedule still. Their defense is in shambles as far as the personnel is concerned. And people tend to like the 49ers just because their offense is good. But I think their offense is going to struggle against the Eagles, man. And now they're having to go into, I don't want to say cold weather, but it's going to be chilly. It's going to be in the 40s, I think, in this game in Philadelphia. And it looks like there might be some rain. And cold-ish weather plus maybe some rain, that's going to help the team that has the better defense and the team that runs the ball better, and that is also the Eagles. I know Barkley didn't have that massive season like he did last year, but he's still Barkley, man. He's an elite running back, and I know Christian McCaffrey also is. McCaffrey has been the more injured running back, and he wasn't as good this year, so the Eagles have been able to run the ball better than the Niners have this year, so I like that as well. And if you look at how this game sets up, the 49ers have gone through it, man, over the last few weeks. Look at the games that they played over the last few weeks. They played a Monday night game at Indianapolis, put up a ton of points. Then they had a shootout in a Sunday night game. So back-to-back primetime, actually 3 straight primetime games. They played a shootout game against Chicago back at home where they got by, and we got a win on that one. Then they lost to Seattle at home in a game that determined the 1 seed. And Kyle Shanahan was talking about how important that game was. Like, we want to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And then that would mean that San Francisco never had to leave San Francisco again, including the Super Bowl if they made it there, because the Super Bowl is in San Francisco. So the Niners really wanted that win, and they got totally shut down by Seattle's defense. I think that's brutal, man, and that could maybe even hurt San Francisco's momentum a bit because they'd won 6 games in a row prior to that. Brutal game. So this has been a brutal stretch for San Francisco. And now they have to go back to the East Coast. And they've been out on the Pacific Coast for 2 weeks now. So I don't like how this sets up, whereas Philadelphia is just staying at home and they're rested because Philadelphia decided last week that they knew they were going to get a home game in the first game. And they just didn't care. And maybe they're pissed because they would have had 2 home games most likely they would have had 2 home games guaranteed if the Bears lost last night, which they should have, because that would have bounced the 2 seed, and then Philadelphia would have had a home game in the next game. So the Eagles are probably pissed about that because it looked like if the Packers won and the Eagles won this game, then the Eagles were going to wind up, I believe the Eagles were going to wind up hosting the Rams instead of having to go to, let me see. Well, what are the Eagles going to have to do? The Eagles have to go on the road. Yes, let me see, because the other games are complete, right? So if the Eagles win this game now, yeah, they have to play at Chicago in the next game if they win this game. So the Eagles are probably a little bit pissed about that. Although I think the Eagles, if they get through this, I think the Eagles will beat Chicago, to be honest. And we'll talk about that game when we get to it. It might wind up being a play for me, by the way. But I think the Eagles win this game. The Eagles, as I was saying, they rested everybody, and they lost to Washington, which didn't look very good. But again, the Eagles rested everyone. They just decided to rest up. They took a bye week, and usually I say when you have a bye, it'll hurt your momentum if you're winning. And yeah, they were winning going into that. But this is the playoffs, man. I mean, it's not going to be a game where you're not going to show up. Like, it might take a little bit to shed the rust. Like, you know, Jordan Love took a little while last night to shed it, but he looked fairly good once he did. He was pretty quick to get back into it, man. So I'm not worried. I'm less worried about it with Philadelphia, though, because what did I say Philadelphia likes to do? They run the football and they play defense. So, and that's what I talk about in the bowls. Like, the teams that do the best with a lot of rust or too much rest are the teams that play defense and run the football, and that's what Philadelphia does. So I'm not concerned about this at all. As far as them having that, like basically taking that bye week last week. And again, they're staying at home. So the travel spot is way better for them. They've gone through much less of a gauntlet over the last few weeks. So, and they had a little bit of rest prior to the Buffalo game. The Buffalo game was a big game, but prior to that, they beat the Raiders easily. And then they had a win over Washington, which was kind of a big game, but whatever. It was, I think that game was on it was on a Saturday. It was kind of it was one of those isolated games, but it was kind of a whatever type of game against a dead Washington team. So San Francisco's definitely had the gauntlet the last few weeks, whereas Philadelphia has not. So I like Philadelphia here for sure. Jeffrey, you're a fan of the Eagles, right? Yeah, so you like that one. I'm not really a fan, but if they're gonna get me some wins, then I like that. Oh, God, if it's going to be windy, that's not good because the wind affects the offense, although that does mean the wind is going to affect San Francisco more than Philly, though. So that's a good part of this. We should talk about the totals, by the way. So, yes, the wind is the thing that affects the offense the most, but Philadelphia, again, running the football, probably going to be doing that more than San Francisco is. And if Philadelphia has the lead, they're going to be running the football. So the wind might actually be more disadvantageous to the Niners as well. Correct. The Bears beat the Eagles, in Philly in some weird bullshit game. Philly was like a 7-point favorite in that game. I don't know what that game was. But that means the Eagles have seen them before, and the Eagles will know what to do. So you're saying it's revenge, right? I mean, revenge is not really going to be a thing when it comes to the playoffs, but what is a thing is the team that did really bad in that first game has the adjustments to make. So there is like a zigzag component to it, which I thought might help the Rams yesterday. And the Rams looked good. They were out to a 14-0 lead early in the game, like I said, but it was not to be as far as the Rams covering that game. Now, the total in these two games I talked about, the highest total by far in the first round of the playoffs is Bills-Jaguars. It's gone down a little bit from 52 to 51. Public is on the over, 83% of tickets, only 79% of the cash on the over. Now, I hesitate. Like, I probably lean under in this game as well, even though usually I see a high total and think, well, usually the high totals you want to go over. But this is a playoff game, and as I already pointed out, both teams run the football first. So that type of game kind of does lend itself more towards an under. And the perception of these teams is quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, teams that score, well, Jaguars scoring a ton, which usually, by the way, I don't like the team that looks like they score a ton like the Jaguars, but in that game, I do slightly lean that way, and you know, it is also Josh Allen. He gets all the publicity, but yeah, I actually think that the, oh man, my watch is constricting me again. I got to loosen it. I'm taking it off for now, and I'm going to loosen it. Getting loose. But yes, I would probably lean to an under in that game. A lot of times these playoff games start off slow too. Plus, last night's games both went over, so you know the public's going to be coming in on the overs in these games. And And then I wouldn't really disagree with an under in the game I just talked about either, Niners-Eagles. It's one of those weird games where I think the Eagles, even though they're the favorite, I think the Eagles and the under are correlated, which is weird. Usually the underdog is correlated to the under because it's fewer points, right? The points are worth more. But the Eagles are the better defense of the two. So if the game is going to be a bit lower scoring, that benefits the Eagles. So I do lean under in the game as well. 61% of tickets are on the over, 52% of the cash on the under. The total did already drop from 46 to 44.5, but the total probably moved because of the weather. But as Jeffrey said, wind might be a factor here, and wind is legitimately something that affects scoring. Like, if the number dropped just because of a slight amount of rain, I would say it's an overreaction, and you might want to look to fade that overreaction. In this game, I don't think I would want to do that, because if it's going to be wind, that is legitimately something that hurts offenses. So, yes, I like the Eagles in that game. Hopefully you can get a decent number on that still. And then we have Chargers-Patriots. This game is difficult for me to figure out. It's got some wild trends that set up in this game that go in opposite directions too. Patriots are a 3.5-point favorite. 63% of tickets on them, only 61% of the cash. Total is at 45. 66% of tickets on the over. 56% of the cash on the over. So the money is agreeing with the Chargers and under here. And I do think those are correlated because the Chargers are the better defense here. So I think if it's a lower scoring game, and they're the underdog here, I think if it is a lower scoring game, I do think the Chargers have a better chance to cover if it is a lower scoring game. The Patriots are the better offense. The Chargers are the better defense. This one's kind of one of those more classic battles. I usually like to side with the defense, but I'm hesitant to do so in this game, although I do agree with it. I agree with the Chargers and the under in this game, but there are some concerns, man. I think more of the concerns are with the Patriots, though. Of course, the Patriots are, of course, at the inexperienced disadvantage here, right? They have a quarterback who's making his first playoff start, and I know one of them won last night. Bullshit. Caleb Williams shouldn't have won. The other lost, but played well, Bryce Young. But we have Drake May up against Justin Herbert, and of course, as I pointed out last night, I think even including yesterday, I think the quarterbacks making their first playoff start against quarterbacks that have played in the playoffs before, they're still like 22-40 against the spread in the last 62 tries. So that's still not a good trend for these quarterbacks that are new to the playoffs. The experience does have an edge, and I think it's actually even better when the experienced quarterback is the underdog. I think it's even better. Like I think they actually cover like some crazy percent of the time. Like I think it's like 70-something%. I don't know. You can go, Brian Power from Wager Talk did a video where he talked about that particular trend. So I think, it's something like that. It is a crazy trend. So Chargers definitely have the experience edge. And they're in I talked about this with Clint on Bald too, because Chargers are his team. This is also, of course, the Chargers in their second year with Harbaugh. So they have a nice year under their belts. They have more experience. They lost in the playoffs last year. They don't want that to happen again. So I think they're going to be ready for this. So I think the experience does go quite a bit of a way here. The Patriots also face the easiest schedule in the league. They only had one win against a team that was above 500 at the end of the season, and that was against the Bills. And the Bills also won in New England. So the Patriots, man, they had an easy schedule this year. So the Patriots might be a little bit of a paper tiger here. And I believe all three of their losses came at home. They lost at home to the Raiders, at home to the Steelers, who did not have a winning record. The Steelers did have a winning record, but the Patriots lost to them. So the Patriots did play against a couple other playoff teams here. They beat Carolina, and I had a win on that one on the show, by the way. But Carolina was a losing record team. But yeah, the Patriots had an unbelievably easy schedule down the stretch. And then, all three of their losses were at home to the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Bills. So interesting that all three of their losses came at home. So they were actually better on the road than at home. But the one thing that's going to be good for New England about being at home is the weather, of course. So I thought it was going to be raining. That's what I told Clint. The rain came through last night. So the weather reports were saying rain, but it looks like it's just going to be kind of cloudy here. And the rain kind of already came through last night, but it is going to be cold, 32. It was supposed to be a little bit warmer than this. I think it was supposed to be about 36. It's going to be 32 now. So that might be a concern because there is one trend that really is going against the Chargers here. Because I know I talked about the trends that are good for the Chargers, which pretty much all have to do with experience. But the one really bad trend is dome teams like the Chargers are in the playoffs on the road in cold weather, basically in 40 degrees or below weather. They have a horrible record. They're like 1 out of their last 15 games straight up, at least. So that's not a good sign for the Chargers. So I'm staying away from the game. I lean to the Chargers here. I think if the Chargers are able to do what they do and play that kind of possession game, that's what Jim Harbaugh likes to do, man. He likes to kind of do what Mario Cristobal did the other night with Miami. He likes to hold on to the football, have these long possessions. The goal is rest your defense so your defense plays better than they would otherwise. So you can take like a mediocre defense and turn them into a good defense by having them be rested when they take the field. So that's why he does that. It's smart. Although it does mean you're engaged in a lot of close games. But in this case, we want, like, all we need it to be is close if we're going to have the Chargers cover here. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, and then it keeps the opposing offense off the field, of course. So that's what you want to do here because the Patriots have a better offense. Although their offense, as I talked about with Clint, their offense maybe isn't quite as good as maybe it looks on the stat sheet. Although it's a fairly balanced offense, although the Patriots do throw the ball more. But despite that, the Patriots, Drake May still only had one 300-yard passing game, and it was against the Jets. So the second to last game of the season. So I don't know what to take away from that. Maybe May wants to go out and look good because Stafford had a pretty good game yesterday, even though I know the people are saying, oh, Stafford shouldn't be the MVP because they almost lost to Carolina. But come on, man. Like, Stafford had 3 touchdowns in the game and over, what did he? I think he had 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards in the game. And he might have thrown 1 pick. I don't remember. But, yeah, I mean, it was not a bad game for Stafford, let's put it that way. And he performed in the clutch as well and got them the win. So we'll see if Drake May is able to do the same thing. If he winds up in a situation where he has to try to win this game in the clutch, we'll see. I lean to the Chargers and the under in that game. And that is the show for today. Long show. Once again, the plays are college basketball, Cleveland State plus the points, Rutgers plus the points. NBA, we got the Brooklyn Nets plus the points, the Nuggets plus the points, Washington Wizards plus the points. Should still be the Bullets, man. Which would have been even more hilarious if they were still the Bullets when Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenden had that thing. Crittenden, by the way, actually killed somebody after that. A case of mistaken identity, too, where he was involved in, I forget what it was, some theft. It was either theft or drugs. I don't know what it was. And then I think he was trying to get something back from somebody. It might have been stolen merchandise in the first place that somebody then took from him. And he was trying to, I guess, shoot that guy. And he wound up shooting the guy's, like, female cousin to death instead. So Crittenden, I'm pretty sure he's in prison. So he should go away. You can watch Shooting Guards on Netflix. Is the documentary about it. But I actually like Arenas. I don't really think Arenas did much wrong. He basically got completely screwed. The NBA gave him a really harsh punishment for really just kind of joking around. He put a gun on, like, Crittenden's chair in the locker room after they were talking shit. Like, left it there for him to find, I mean. And Arenas, the other thing, the real reason why the NBA cracked down on Arenas so hard was because he was buying guns in states that had more lax gun laws while the team was on the road. And he was, like, smuggling the guns back home on the team flights and stuff. So that's why the NBA really did that. But he didn't do anything wrong in that regard, man. It's all just because the gun laws are so horrible in the country that he was just buying the guns in the other in the places where it's more legal or where it's easier to do. Jeffrey, thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Arenas is a rat. Well, that's not good. What do you mean? He ratted people out? Well, that's bullshit then if that's the case. Fuck him for that if he did that. I've always liked Arenas. Man, that sucks if that's the case. All right, that's going to do it. Oh, yes, then we do have the Eagles as the NBA play. I got sidetracked by the Washington play there. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Like, subscribe, comment on the videos on the channel here. Listen and review on audio, Spotify and Apple. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. Patreon.com/LearnToToad, and you can get some bonus Uke stuff. And Losercast. Go check out. Why do I always forget that? Yeah, go check out the Losercast, the comedy panel podcast that we do pretty much every Tuesday night after Legion of Skanks. That's going to do it. Thanks, guys. Let's get some wins today. Let's bounce back. We did the other day, so we've been zigzagging the last few days. Let's bounce back. This time, peace for now.